Hello and welcome to the Loop with Sloop. I'm your host, Sloop, and today is going to be the third episode of the Learning the Web series, where we kind of break down how to build your first website, starting from the very beginnings and getting all the way down to a website that we're actually pleased with. Now today we'll be answering a very simple question of exactly how to use divs. There's going to be two main parts that I'm going to break it up into. First, through the explanation, and then secondarily, we'll look at the actual code of how you put it in your HTML document. So first off, what is a div? Well, a div is basically a box. It's a box that we put content into, and it is the most important thing that you're really going to use on your website, because every single website you go to uses these divs to order their website. Now I've taken the liberty to search out a good website here, and I'm going to put this in the links below. You can actually click on it right there. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to this website, which has a clear demonstration of exactly what a div is. You can see this website is clearly constructed by divs. These squares here, the entire website itself even is a div. There's a box here at the top, a box here as the main content, a box here as this download thing, and each one of these elements of this website are all inside of these squares. And you can even see here we can manipulate the divs to have borders around them, to have little curved corners. We can have different types of headings, text, backgrounds, all kinds of cool things. Those we'll be using, and we'll learn how to use those things a little bit later on, but right now what we're going to be doing is just learning the basics of that. And you can see how we can manipulate these squares to make these pretty well-designed websites. And no matter where you go, you're going to see divs. The only time when you're not is when they're done with Adobe Flash, if you have a straight Flash website, but those are fairly rare and they're not something you're going to be coming across for content distribution. We're not going to worry about that right now. So now that we've talked a little bit about that, let's take a look at the actual code itself. Here I've taken the liberty of just kind of sketching out a very basic HTML document here, and I've added this one little thing which is CSS. What it does is it just puts a border around divs. We're going to be talking about CSS more in next episode, but just copy this word for word, and then we'll talk about exactly how it works in the next episode. So yes, what we're going to do here is we're going to be putting down several divs just to demonstrate what they actually do inside of your website and how you're going to be using them in your website. So here this outer div exists. Then when we put everything that we want inside of that div right in here in this kind of content area. And then after we're done, we're going to close it just like you would any other thing. And you can see Notepad recognizes that this is indeed a closed tag. Now I'm going to put another div just to kind of show you what it looks like when we have two divs inside of each other. Alright, so div. Alright, there we go. And so when we have this, what it's going to do is it's going to just display the content that is inside of this div, this outer div, in here. And this will be below this inner content div, and this will be above. I'm going to put a little bit of text, and then we'll take a look at it in our demonstration. Alright, so now I'm going to save this using Control S, and then I'm going to bump over here to take a look at my files. Alright, so here's the manipulating divs folder. Now if I want to open this in Firefox here, I'm just going to click there, and boom, here is our website. Now you'll see it does indeed come across the entire page, but you can kind of get this basic website here, this basic layout website. This outer div has a single border around it. This border does not normally come. This border is only because I told it to in CSS, but you can see the stuff that we put on top is displayed on top. Stuff that's bottom is displayed below the other div, and this is the inner div. And you can still see that that border, if we do indeed have a border, it's inside of that outer div, that single outer main content div. We can use CSS to manipulate its position, manipulate their sizes, and do all sorts of really, really cool stuff. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. But before we actually do anything with CSS, we first need to learn the elements and attributes that we want to put onto the actual div. Now there are some cool things that we can put on divs. Now what I'm going to do is put an ID on here. Now what an ID is it's basically a name for a div, and you can really do this with any single element, but here I'm just introducing this here. Now I'm going to call this outer div. Outer div. Now I'm just going to put that there, and that'll be the name of this outer div. Every time I want to call it in CSS, it's going to be referenced using this ID. I can also use another thing called a class, which I'm going to put on the inner content div. You know, it's going to be, I'm envisioning something that, like, you'll have 5 or 6 of these inner content things, perhaps, you know, each one holding a different element of your website. Maybe, you know, each one is a link to a different news article or something. So we're just going to put in here, and then this is, we'll call it content. Yeah, so when we reference that, we can actually look at that. And classes and IDs are different, but they're types of names. Classes, you can have 5 or 6 divs with the same exact class name. But ID is unique. Each one has an individual single div element, in which we're going to talk about. So I think I'm going to end that there. And next episode, we're going to be really excited. We're going to introduce CSS and show how we can actually take these divs and actually manipulate them and make them look kind of cool. All right, so I'll see you there. You guys take care, and hopefully this was a bit helpful for you.